All right, welcome to another episode of Taco and Tech with your host, Jeff Brunson. Here, I've got a couple of guys. I got Jordan and Zach with me. On the screen, you'll see it's like Sarah Dre, but his name is really Zach. That's okay. But we're going to go through some of the Big 12 games, and we're just going to pick the winners and we'll talk about the spread and see if they'll cover and just have a little fun tonight. But I'll let them introduce themselves individually. But so Jordan, go ahead. Tell us what you want us to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, Jeff, it's a pleasure to be here with you. You know, Texas Tech Twitter legend releasing the UT promo code last year for the February basketball game. So it's an honor to be here. So thank you for having me. Name is Jordan Brazel. I'm a Texas Tech graduate of class of 2017, and also part of the Guns Up Nation family as a Guns Up Nation ambassador. Excited to be here, ready to get through this, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Hey, I do what I do for my Red Raiders. All right.
We appreciate it.
For sure.
Go ahead, Zach.
All right, guys. Yeah, my name's Zach Haney. I am a native of the Levelland, Texas, where our own Lyle Leong Jr. is the head coach of our Levelland Lobos. We wish him good luck this year, and he is such a supporter of Tech and continues to support the program. I want to just reiterate what Jordan said is El Jefe is a legend. He is in the Gambling Guachos Hall of Fame for Texas Tech Twitter. And it was an honor to be asked to join this tonight and just them to hear me ramble and whatnot. But I've got the cactus tattoo down here on the leg, got the cactus shirt, and I'm ready for this Texas Tech season and to be here to talk with both of you great guys. It's an honor.
Oh, we are all – I think the entire Red Raider Nation is ready for this football season, regardless of how it turns out, just with the energy and excitement. And then it's nice that our fan base is unified this time of year. So it's everybody's excited, regardless of the record that Texas Tech displays, occurs this season. I think everybody will be excited. But well, let's just go ahead and get into it. We got a couple of games that are probably pretty easy. There's actually no line on them. But does anybody think Tarleton is going in Fort Worth to beat TCU?
I mean, I've got a lot of buddies that go to Tarleton, and I mean, they're not good at football, they're good at partying. So, Tarleton, I feel like, they're getting paid to go in there and play, but TCU, as much as TCU has left a bad taste in Red Raider mouths, especially on Texas Tech Twitter this offseason, I think TCU is going to take care of business handily at that, and it's going to be over by halftime.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, TCU's without Chandler Morris, their starting quarterback, which, I mean, Max Duggan, he could have easily been the starter as well, but I think TCU and Duggan just have their way with Tarleton, and it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, nothing to add. I think that's going to be an easy. Similar situation, we got Kennesaw State going into Cincinnati. And so while they're not in the Big 12 yet, we are covering these new teams as well. So does Kennesaw State have a chance? We'll start there.
Yeah, so I mean,
or go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I mean, Cincinnati, I mean, they had a tough week last week against Arkansas, but I think they bounced back big and they just absolutely steamroll Kennesaw State, just much like TCU is going to do to Tarleton.
Yeah, no, I will say Arkansas has a good team, and their quarterback that they got, he's a solid quarterback, and they did have a tough time. And also, I will say that Cincinnati, I think last year they had a little bit of a Cinderella season. They had, a NFL draft pick as a quarterback, but that goes without saying. Kennesaw State, they're not at the talent level as Cincinnati. Cincinnati has some dogs. They got some dogs in the offense. They got some dogs on the defense, and they proved through at that game last week. And I think that they're going to steamroll. It may not be as big of a margin as, TCU and Tarleton, but I think that they will accomplish what they're trying to do and steamroll through those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. No argument here. I do think Cincinnati, of the 4 teams coming in, Cincinnati is the most equipped to be able to compete in the Big 12 immediately. I think Houston, probably BYU as well, but I would rank Cincinnati first. I think the others will have some growing pains, so to speak, because it's different when you're playing this level of competition week in and week out compared to a game or two that you can get up for. But
yeah,
we'll move on. Those should be easy ones, kind of like Tech and Murray State. So, all right. So we got Missouri. So it's a big rivalry game here. Missouri to Manhattan to face Kansas State. We'll just start there. So Missouri at Kansas State. Who you got?
Yeah, so I actually have Missouri winning this one in a late fourth quarter field goal. Adrian Martinez, he didn't look that great to me last week against South Dakota. I think it's going to come down to the end, but I actually have Missouri pulling this one out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have to agree. Martinez, he had 53 passing yards in last week's game. Vaughn definitely carried them from the running back standpoint. He looked really good, and he's a really impressive player. So it's going to come down to the offensive line against Missouri's defensive line, and if Vaughn can control the game flow, and if he can break off those big runs that he did last week. But also, he can't do it all himself. He's going to need some help over the top because how good he did last week, they're going to collapse on him, and they're going to have give him some help over the middle, whether it be the slot receivers, the tight ends, or if they can beat them over the top. But still, with how one-dimensional Kansas State is, I think that Missouri is somehow going to squeak this out, even though that they're at the bottom of their conference. I think they're gonna come out on top.
Oh, wow. That's surprising. I've got K-State. I do. I do think they're talented. I actually have K-State actually vying for a potential Big 12 championship. So I'm a little high. Obviously, this is only week 2. I'm free to change my mind. So we'll see how this game turns out. But
Yeah.
My rooting interest would be for K-State this weekend. Probably some of that's from my heart. I do feel like that Texas Tech Twitter and Kansas State Twitter kind of joined forces. This
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe
I
there's
got a lot of Kansas State followers, this offseason, especially during the Fox fan vote. They were going up for us against, OSU, OU, all these different schools. So I feel your sentiment there.
Yeah, so definitely a fun fan base. And so, but K-State is the favorite by 7.5. So y'all don't think they're going to cover.
It's just from a passing standpoint, last year, 54 yards, their leading receiver had 23 yards receiving. It's just last week they showed me a lot of one-dimensionality, and they're going to have to have more than that to beat Missouri. Because Missouri, they ran it almost 100 yards. They had 200 yards passing from their quarterback. Their leading receiver had almost 100 yards. So they showed good offense last week. Their defense is just where it lacks, where I think Vaughn could run through them.
Yeah, I don't have K-State covering the 7.5. I think it could be a 3 or 7, 3-point ball game. But I do have K-State winning, but not the current line at 7.5. All right, next up, we got Arizona State going to Stillwater facing Oklahoma State. Who you got?
So in this one, I actually have Oklahoma State pulling it out by 7. So I don't think they're going to cover the line. because Oklahoma State's an 11.5-point favorite right now. Their defense last week, granted, they pulled out a lot of the starters in the fourth quarter. I mean, they still gave up 546 yards to Central Michigan. I'm not saying that Central Michigan's a bad team, but I do think Oklahoma State's defense will come out a little bit stronger than they did, trying to get a little bit of revenge from all those yards and everything they gave up. But I think it's going to be a shootout.
I think OSU is definitely going to win it, and I think it's going to be more than the line. I think they're going to blow out ASU. Sanders and Johnson, they obviously have a connection where they can connect over the top, and I think Sanders is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in college football this year. He may not be in the Heisman run, but he's going to be one of the top in the Big 12, and their offense is elite. They always are under Mike Gundy, with the mullet and all. But kind of like what you alluded to, I think that their defense needs to step up and kind of realize what that they gave up last week and that they need to hold that. But from our friends that are wanting to join the Big 12 on Big 12 Twitter, Arizona, they all talk about how ASU is their little brother and they cannot stand them. And I just got to go with my Arizona brothers on Twitter that we have now, and hopefully that OSU just blows them out of the water.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I think Oklahoma State's going to win. I just don't trust. I really don't trust any Pac-12 team, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I just don't think that they're strong enough. Utah maybe should have won, against Florida last week, but they didn't. And if they win,
Florida quarterback, he looked special last week.
If Utah wants to be this big dog like they like to talk about, like they are on Twitter, that's a game they should have. Okay, so let's just get back to reality there, Utah. Utes. What kind of mascot is Utes for real?
Exactly. I have no idea.
That's like if we call it the Texas Tech Tex.
Tex. That sounds like a tax test that all of us were scarred with in Texas growing up.
Yeah, this next game is compelling to me, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But so we got Kansas at West Virginia. So our first actual Big 12 conference game. Who you got?
This is the Daniels Bowl right here. We got Kansas. JT Daniels looked really good last week. And it's Kansas. They have a little bit of chip on their shoulder that everybody's choosing them to place last. But then we also get, we got Graham Harrell over there. So, you got to cheer for the Texas Tech blood. But I think, West Virginia is going to win this. I think it's going to be closer than people expect. I think that I think it's going to be, so what the line right now is, let's see here. Yeah, so the spread is 13.5 points on ESPN for West Virginia. I think it'll be close to that, but I think it's going to be a one-touchdown game. But I don't see Kansas. They haven't shown they're going to be competitive in the Big 12 anytime in the recent, besides Texas. They have Texas's number, but I don't think they have West Virginia's this weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think West Virginia pulls it out. I do think, though, that this Kansas team is going to be different than the previous teams that we've seen in the past before. Not saying they're going to compete for Big 12 championships anytime soon, but I do think they are going to be significantly better than they have been. I actually have West Virginia winning this by 15, so covering the spread on it.
See, once again, I am the other way on this. I think that, I agree with you. I do think that Kansas is on the right path. And I actually believe that Kansas is going to at least flirt with going to a bowl game this year. Like, how crazy is that to think about? But I think they're going to be at least close. Maybe a 5, possibly 6-win season. And things have to go right. Obviously, I'm just saying it's possible. That's not my prediction. I'm just saying it's possible. But I have I actually have West Virginia as the last place team this year, not Kansas. So in order for that prediction to be true, I need West Virginia. So that is my pick. So obviously West Virginia is not going to cover the 13.5 spread. Kansas is going to go into West Virginia and win outright, which does suck a little bit because, obviously we root for Graham Harrell. I don't want Graham Harrell to fail, right? But
Yeah.
I don't trust West Virginia's team, and I think Kansas is definitely on the upswing. I think they have a legitimately good coach. I like him, and I think he's potentially the right fit for Kansas. But he's at minimum he's at least riding the ship, and so I've got Kansas winning because I have West Virginia finishing last place, and this is the game that has to determine that. That's why it's compelling to me. Like I'm not sure what time the game is on, but if it's early or late, I will probably watch that game instead of.
It's actually it's a 5 o'clock game, so
Okay.
it'll start while Central Time, so it'll start while Tech's still going.
So maybe I'll catch the second half or something.
But I will say, if I can. Kansas, they have to be excited about the teams that are exiting the Big 12 and the teams that are coming in. Because I feel like, you look at Cincinnati, you look at UCF, that especially with the type of offense they run, that they have a chance of not being at the bottom half of the conference, that they can vie against some of these teams coming in that may be a little bit overwhelmed, that they can, Les Miles, that he can actually take. Like you said, I feel like he's the right coach, and I feel like they can get the right talent in there. And now they have a chance, whether it be into 2024, if we let Texas and them out early, or later, that they have a chance to kind of take that next step and play that Big 12 brand of defense and offense that these other teams aren't used to.
I don't know. I think Kansas is going to miss getting their W over Texas every year. So
yeah, that's a good point.
That is true. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. All right. Next, another probably easy game. We got Kent State at OU, but this one does have a line where maybe the other two that we talked about did not. But we've got OU favored by 33.5. Who you got?
Yeah, so I have OU dominating this game, covering the spread. Dylan Gabriel, I mean, he had a good week last week. Not only that, the Sooners ran for, a little over 250 yards and 4 TDs. I just don't think Kent State's going to be able to stop them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is, OU has had such prolific names that have been their quarterbacks, and Gabriel's coming in as he's not as well known, and I feel like this is going to be another game for him to make himself known to Sooner Nation, that he's introducing himself, because when Sooners, they have that prolific quarterback, it's almost royalty in Norman. It's royalty to the fan base, and he showed out last week, but running backs kind of stole the show last week. I think him and Mims are going to have both pretty big games, and I think he's going to be able to continue to win over that Sooner fan base and show them that he's the next big QB. So I pick the Sooners winning pretty big in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Same. Talent is, far superior on OU side. Kent State doesn't have much of a chance, just like Murray State didn't have much of a chance last week. So not going to dwell on it. OU's going to roll. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, as they say. Okay, our next compelling game, it's got some interest, I think, for a lot of people, is Iowa State at Iowa. Iowa with the 3.5 point favorite. Who you got?
Yeah, so on this one, the Cyhawk game, I actually, Iowa's won 6 of the last straight games against, Iowa State. If it wasn't for Iowa State's turnovers last year, I think they had 4 of them that gave Iowa 20 of their 27 points. I think if they can limit turnovers, they'll have a good shot. Iowa's going to have to do more than what they did last week, obviously, against South Dakota State, not even scoring a touchdown. They actually haven't scored. They've only scored 3 touchdowns over the last 3 games that they played. So I really think Iowa has to throw the ball in this game, and they have to do it effectively in order to beat Iowa State. So I actually have Iowa State coming out of this one with an upset, beating the Hawkeyes at home.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. It's crazy how much Iowa, with the amount of offense they have not had in years preceding this, they always seem to find a way to beat Iowa State, the Cyclones. And it's crazy because after they beat them, the Cyclones go on to usually have a pretty good season. The Iowa beats them and they get over that hump. But I mean, it kind of goes back. Iowa just does not have the offensive efficiency to win. It's going to have to be won on the defensive side of the ball, just like last year. They're going to have to generate those turnovers. They're going to have to generate those defensive touchdowns. And even Deckers, he had 4 touchdowns last week. He played a really good game. And it's going to come down to Iowa's defense and also Iowa State's defense. If they can even stop a lackluster offense, because last year when they did score on offense, I was running it down their throats, and that's where it's going to come. But I think Deckers is going to have another big game. I feel like if they win the OLDL battle, I feel like Iowa State and Deckers is going to be able to throw over the top and over the middle and complete some passes and get enough points to win this game. So I definitely take Iowa State in this game.
Okay, we are in agreement. I have Iowa State winning as well. Some of that is with my heart. Just with the friends I've made on Twitter this offseason, that they were, along with Kansas State, they were definitely a fun group. But I also, and I do think that Iowa State's going to struggle this year. They just lost a ton. In my last episode, I said I was so happy to draft Breece Hall on my fantasy football team because I knew
yeah,
face him. So, they lost a lot of talent. You have to wonder if they can replace it. I'm not sold on Matt Campbell as his great coach yet. So I want to see another year or two with different players and how he's done to see before I make my judgment. But I'm not sold yet. But saying all that, Iowa just looked terrible. I mean, last week, I can't get that out of my mind. So I think that Iowa State's going to struggle in the Big 12. I don't know if they're going to struggle in this game. So I also have Iowa State winning, which obviously covers the 3.5 that they are favored by.
Because what they won on last week with 2 safeties and a field goal, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not even,
which is insane to think. Oh.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, before we get to the best game, we'll cover this one. So we got Alabama going to Texas. Texas is a 20-point underdog. 20-point underdog to Alabama at their own place. Does Texas even cover? I'll just ask that question because I think we all are going to pick Alabama to win.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Alabama covers this smoothly. They're 41 out of the 57 last games. They've scored 40-plus points. Texas is 1-7 under Sark whenever they give up 30-plus points. I see Bama coming away with a a nice size win. It doesn't help that they're probably pissed off that their band can't make it either. So
Yeah, so what I'll say is, of course, Alabama, I think they'll win the game, but I think that it's ridiculous that game day and big noon kickoff are both going to Texas to cover this game when the clearly better game is going to be against BYU and Baylor. And I feel like that they're doing the country wrong, and it's because the brands that are paying them. But I mean, why do you go cover a game? They're not going to cover any other game this season besides Oregon and Georgia last week, which was a blowout. But this one is a guaranteed blowout from the beginning, I think. And I think Texas is severely outcoached. I think that they're outmatched, even with their top class. You've got wide receivers, you've got players that are getting in trouble outside, getting suspended from the team. And I just feel like Alabama's going to come in there, and I feel like ESPN and Fox are going to spend a lot of money to cover a blowout in Austin, Texas this weekend.
Yeah, if Quinn Ewers can't even figure out where to park, how's he going to handle this Alabama, defense? Like, what are we talking about here? So,
Yeah.
Would it surprise me if Texas did cover? Probably not. It would surprise me if Texas won, right? But it wouldn't surprise me if they, only lost by, 17 or 14 or 19, something like that. But I would expect Alabama to cover. I think Nick Saban wants to make a statement. I think they want to make sure that Texas knows who the big dog is, when they come to the SEC. Saban wants to beat Steve Sarkisian. He told Steve Sarkisian not to go to Texas because of the boosters. Steve Sarkisian went anyway. So I would be surprised if Alabama or I was about to contradict myself. I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama didn't cover when I just said that they wouldn't be surprised if they would. But anyway, I do expect Alabama to absolutely cover the 20 points and to essentially break Texas's will. And I think even Texas fans kind of expect that too.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And I really think, this is going to be a good showing to show us exactly how good Ewers is. Last week I felt like he was just mediocre. So, if he's actually going to be this guy that is supposed to be their savior, that down there again, it's going to be a good game for him to do it if he can.
Yeah, and I feel like, it's a showing for him, but I also feel like Nick Saban, this is a welcome to the SEC that he wants to give to Texas. He wants to show them that you're not coming into a cush conference where you're going to have your own network.
Oh, we lost him.
I think we lost him.
It's just me and you, I guess. So we'll see if he chimes back in. But I think what he was saying essentially was what I said. The Alabama wants, kind of cement, their position as the number one team in the SEC. That Texas, with all their money and with all their power, they're not going to come in and push us around. We're going to go ahead and we'll just push you around this Saturday. How about that? Because the Texas O-line, it's while talented pieces, they're young. So they're going to struggle, I would imagine, against that Alabama defensive line. So
I agree full-heartedly on that.
All right, we'll just move on, and Zach kind of alluded to the kind of the big game of the weekend. I think most people would view it as, but we got Baylor going to Provo, going to at BYU. BYU favored by 3.
So I was going to say, so I really think that BYU is going to be able to feed off the energy at home. They're going up against a future Big 12 opponent. Jaron Hall looked pretty decent last night, but the team ran for 312 yards, Their star running back, Christopher Brooks, had over 135. I think if the BYU offensive line can hold the Baylor's defensive front in check, I think they're gonna pull off the win in the upset here. But I do think it is going to be close. I think what the line was at 3 or 3.5. I think it's going to be a field goal game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Baylor's, I mean, their strength is definitely the O-line and D-line. I think this year, I think that's been at least predicted or talked about before, and so that definitely gives them an edge. But they played last year, correct? But it was in Waco.
I believe that's right.
I don't remember who. I want to say BYU won, but I don't remember if that was the case. I should have looked it up, and I just recalled it. But anyway, we'll I'm gonna lean. I don't know. I'm kind of with the Vegas line. I mean, essentially, it's at BYU, so they're getting a little bit of bump in the line. But I could absolutely see Baylor winning this game. You know what? I'll just, as much as I don't like Baylor, of course, and really, it's not that I don't like them. I'm really just more jealous of their success through all the stuff that they've gone through. It's frustrating. It's like karma doesn't exist for Baylor, but everybody else. And so, but I'll go with Baylor. I'll pick Baylor to win. Okay. We had a little bit of technical difficulties here, so you may see a little cutout there on the channel, but we are back. It's like we were never even gone as far as you're concerned. So next game is we got Louisville going to UCF to face the Knights, a future Big 12 member. So we'll talk about that game and see if it's kind of a rivalry game for them. And so, who you got? UCF is favored by 5.5.
I was going to say, so with this one, I actually have UCF pulling off the win. I think after Plumlee's performance last week, he threw for over 300 yards, rushed for over 100, counted for 5 of their TDs. Malik Cunningham for the Cardinals didn't look too hot, only had about 150 yards, 2 interceptions, no TDs for him. I think UCF gets 12-point win here and covers that spread pretty good.
Oh, there you go. I also have UCF. I have about a 7-point game, a 1 touchdown victory, but that's splitting hairs. I think that UCF they're going to be a force. There'll be some growing pains, when they join the Big 12, of course. Just facing Big 12 athletes game in and game out. I may have mentioned that earlier during the show, but it's just a different animal. And so, Louisville is obviously a rival for them. They'll be ready. You got the bounce house. They'll be bouncing. I hope to go to a game there at some point. I went there this summer and put my guns up all over their campus.
Well, you'll get a shot whenever they join.
It'll be fun to go back and check them out. But I do have UCF winning this game by about a touchdown. So, okay, a couple other notable games here going on this weekend. We got South Carolina at Arkansas. Arkansas favored by 8.5. Who you got?
Yeah, so I was going to say, so on this one, I have Arkansas winning this one. Their team ran for 224 yards against Cincinnati. KJ Jefferson looked really good in those outings, getting 3 TDs to the air, 1 to the ground. Spencer Rattler, whenever they play Georgia Strait, to me, didn't seem as sharp as what he could be. I think he's going to come out better than he did against Georgia State. But I just think Arkansas controls both the offensive, defensive side of the ball. I have them winning by 15 points, covering that spread.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Arkansas is better. Even though we're actually fighting South Carolina for the fandom of Dana Beers here, I think they took the lead this past update. But it's possible Arkansas may help us out here by knocking them down a peg on that list.
I said maybe they can get enough of a blowout that he'll do what he did against Nebraska and just say, "No, I can't do this."
Yeah, I don't think it'll be as brutal. I think Arkansas will control from the get-go. It won't be as brutal of a loss as Nebraska had, but I think Arkansas is fairly a legit SEC team, more so than South Carolina is, and so I do have Arkansas winning by more than the spread of 8.5. So I'm there with you. Okay, we got Tennessee at Pitt. Tennessee favored by 6.
Yeah, so this one I do have Tennessee winning this one. I think Hendon Hooker looked really good in their win against Ball State, which granted it's Ball State, but I feel like he looked really good. Not only that, he's thrown a touchdown pass in the last 13 games and tied for fewest interceptions at 3 among quarterbacks who've thrown over 300 passes. So I think he has a good game. I think it's going to be close. I think it'll be a 1-score game, but I do have Tennessee pulling it out.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not very compelling, but I agree. I don't trust Pitt. Since I have West Virginia fighting for last place, and then the fact that Pitt kind of barely won, so to speak, I can't take much stock in them, even though it's at Pitt. But Tennessee is very similar. They're kind of paper tigers. It seems like a lot of years, and they just fall well below expectations. At least their fans' expectations, right? So they have, excuse me. Definitely and probably similar to Texas Tech, right? Their fans have a higher view of their school than what they actually are. And so it's hard, but I do have Tennessee winning, and probably by a touchdown or more. I don't, because I don't trust West Virginia, then I don't trust Pitt, and so I'm going. That's probably a weird way to do that, but that's how my mind. So we'll agree there. Okay, we got Kentucky at Florida. Interesting game. And Florida favored by 6, a touchdown, 6.5.
Yeah, so on this one, Kentucky's without their star running back in Chris Rodriguez. He's still out. But what's even more interesting to me is that Kentucky's 5-34 against ranked Florida teams all time. With that being said, I don't think Kentucky's able to get a ground game going. I think Anthony Richardson for Florida has a really good game. I don't think they cover the spread, but I do think Florida comes out with a win in this one.
Yeah, unfortunately, the same here. It's Kentucky's one of those teams where it's fun when they're good in football. Maybe similar to Kansas, because they're so good in basketball, and they're not so good in football. Maybe that's the reverse. It's probably similar to, I don't know what team is good in football and not good in basketball. Maybe they're fun, when they're good in basketball a year or two. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it correlates the same verse. But anyway, at least to me personally, I think they're fun when when they're good, because they're generally not. And so I do like. Now, where did well, never mind, that's a different topic. But Florida's going to win. They're in the swamp. They beat the Ute, which is, Utah is a good team. I don't think they're a great team like they think they are, but they're still solid. They won the week Pac-12. It's at least something to hang a banner about, whatever you want to do. Texas Tech isn't hanging Big 12 banners, so more power to them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Joey McGuire is coming. Joey McGuire is coming. And so, yeah, Florida's going to win probably by at least a touchdown, if not more. So I would probably, if the line was 9.5, I would probably say Florida would cover. Okay, we're gonna got a couple more games left here. We got USC at Stanford. Had to fit at least one Pac-12 game in here. So we got USC is favored. Lincoln Riley favored by 8.5 at Stanford.
Yeah. So with this, Stanford has a good running back in EJ Smith, who had a good game last week, ran for over 100 yards with 2 TDs. I do think this is more of a Caleb Williams coming out party in this one. I think Stanford will be able to get the run game going early, make it close in the first quarter, but then I think Caleb Williams and that team just kind of take over, and I have them as a 2 touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think this will be a contest, truly. I just don't think Stanford has enough. Lincoln Riley, I think he's just too, off. What am I trying to say? He's similar to Cliff. He's just an offensive genius. I guess it's ultimately what I'm trying to say here. He is very good. Whether you agree that he can be a head coach of such a prestigious program is maybe a different conversation. He probably had some, maybe should have done better at Oklahoma. You could say, just couldn't get over the hump. Didn't win a playoff game, but you know what? He got there. So it's definitely an interesting argument to take. But I think going to the Pac-12 is a much easier schedule. I think he's going to dominate. Maybe not necessarily year one, but I think he'll dominate this game. I think their talent far outweighs and his offensive mind, whether the defense comes through in year one or not, I don't think it matters. If nothing else, they can outscore them. And so I do think that USC will not only win, but they'll win by, I would say 2 touchdowns at least. So they'll easily cover the 8. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be interesting as a side note just to see how they hold up whenever they move to the Big Ten, how they fare up there. That will be fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a similar transition as Texas and OU to the SEC.
Oh, yeah.
Or you got Cincinnati to the Big 12. Whatever. There's going to be a transition phase or some growing pains. Just with the level of competition. So can he recruit big enough? Can he get him ready, in time? That's definitely interesting. I'll be watching it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and which is why the Big Ten got, the big number is because everybody else is going to be so we're not the only ones that are curious for sure. So okay, we are coming home to Lubbock. Our final game on our slate here is Houston is coming to Lubbock. Tech is favored by 3. All right, who you got?
I was going to say, I think if I were to go with anything other than Tech, people might riot. But, Houston struggled last week against UTSA. Granted, Coach Traylor up there is building a heck of a program at UTSA, but they had 11 penalties. UTSA was able to rack up over 300 yards passing. I do think Smith and Kitley get it going, and they pick up right where they left off last week. I actually have Tech coming up with 2 turnovers. I'm going to go ahead and call that 2 turnovers and get a 2 touchdown win. I think they're going to be able to take care of Houston.
All right, I like it. I like the turnover too because there's a song that Joey McGuire has ready for turnovers and we haven't heard it yet. So I know he'll be excited when it happens that first time and the crowd can hear that sound.
That purge siren is going to really get everybody going whenever that first one happens. And I'm calling it now. Houston's going to be the game that it happens in twice. So be ready to be
Nice.
rocking in the zone.
Oh, I will be rocking for sure. Yeah, I am right there with you. Of course, I am unabashedly, I'm a homer. I don't care. Tech is going to win. Houston Tech will outmatch Houston. They don't think that they're outmatched, but they are. Talent-wise is what I'm talking about. And coaching staff-wise, I think we have the better coaching staff as a whole.
Without a doubt.
Especially at the OC position. So Zach Kitley is the real deal. He brought excitement immediately. The first play was a flea flicker. Are you kidding me? He wanted to make a statement, and he did, and it was awesome. I think the fans loved it. We're excited. We got home field advantage. I do think this is going to be at least a 10-point game, so I'm right there with you. I don't think that Houston quite has the horses, regardless of how much they're going to be jazzed up. I think Dana kind of knows it. There's been a few comments that kind of hinted that he is at least concerned about the game. I'll just put it that way. And so, I definitely expect Texas Tech to go to be 2-0 when this is over. About a 10-point victory. Houston's a very solid team. Don't get me wrong. I'm not overlooking them. I just think that Tech has more talent. Being in the Big 12, we've had time to adjust where Houston has been trying to build up. So it's going to take Houston some time. Houston is absolutely going to be a force in the Big 12. We are helping them out just like we did TCU. So the future is maybe a little – we're going to lose some games against Houston in the future. Don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be Saturday.
No. We're going to get that 5 wins in a row Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and lock that one in.
Lock it in. So, all right. So if you lose your bet on that, blame Jordan. He
Yeah. I told you at the beginning, I'm not a good gambler, so don't use my picks for gambling. But I'm pretty confident in our team. That like everybody knows. Joey McGuire's. He's got the culture there now. He got the energy. He's really preaching that family mentality, and I just think these guys are going to go out and fight with each other. 3:00 in the Jones. I expect it to be rocking, and I think the team's just going to feed off that energy. I think we're going to see another trick play from Kitley come out. I don't know about the start of the game, but I do think there'll probably be 1, if not 2, in there just to get some of that energy and crowd going if the crowd does die down a little bit. But it's going to be a fun game.
It is going to be a blast, absolute blast. And I think people will be jazzed up because it is a future conference game. So I think they're going to treat it as such this year.
Although I didn't see, is there an over under on how many tortillas hit Dana after his comment?
So I believe it's no. And I love Dana. He makes me laugh. If he was hired here, I wouldn't have had a problem. Many people wanted him instead of Matt Wells, obviously. But I'm also at the point to where, and I was actually talking about this sometimes with a friend today, excuse me. And, I'm okay with the issues that Tech has had for the past decade plus because of where we are now. When you look back upon your life and you think, oh, I wonder what happened if this would have changed. And then you realize if that would have changed, then, I wouldn't be married, to my wife now, and I would have
absolutely
sons, So I'm thankful for what I went through to get where I am now. So I'm kind of in that same place mentally with Texas Tech that, we had to suffer through that decade, get where we are
rough
now.
years.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. At least where we think Joe McGuire is going to take us. Bring it on. You have insults. I'm here. I can take it. We've been terrible. You're not telling me anything new by insulting me and insulting Texas Tech football record of the past 12 years. I'm fully aware. I lived it in the stadium. I was sat there with, my guns up, Where am I at? Okay, there we go. I got that meme, and so we're ready. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just talking. But we're ready for success, and it may not come this year, but it'll come in a year or two if it doesn't. Before the season, I wasn't sure if we'd make a bowl game or not, but I was okay with that because I knew that year 2 and year 3, assuming the recruiting was on the same pattern as what Joe McGuire's done so far, that we were going to be in fantastic shape. So,
absolutely, he's come in and killed that area.
This season to me is just a bonus. Whatever happens. It's fantastic. Go to a bowl game, that is great. That is a fantastic start for a first-year head coach. But even if we don't, then I know that I've got year 2 and year 3. It's probably going to be something special. So we are ready. I don't know. Do you have any keys to the game, or just any thoughts other than that as far as Houston and Tech?
I think as long as Tech and Smith can control the ball and the turnovers, I like I said, this is one game that, going into the season, before, we got to see them last week, I was kind of like, I don't know. But then you see, Houston struggle last week against UTSA, having to go to 3 overtime. Tech doing really good. I mean, even whenever Shuck went down, Smith came right in and picked up the ball, and it was like nothing skipped a beat. And so just seeing all that go together, I think we take care of the ball. Defense comes up with some stops and some turnovers. Like I said, I think this is going to be a pretty good win for Tech.
There you go. Yeah, I am in agreement for sure. Yeah, take care of the ball, don't turn it over, and then get at least 2, according to you, on your side. And so we'll play the purge, and we'll yell and scream, and we appreciate Joey McGuire's atmosphere. He's obviously had a hand in the game. I guess you probably weren't there last week, being in the DFW area, but there was a notable difference in the atmosphere. Music pretty loud. There's probably some complaints from some people, but
we're not OU. We don't have the older alumni that sit there and complain if you stand up. So I imagine we were okay with the music.
Well, most were. There were some that weren't, but you know what? If we win, they'll get over it. But it was just a different vibe, and it was nice. It was exciting. It was exciting again. I think it's going to be an event again, just like basketball is. Going to basketball game, that's an event. It's like something that you have to do. You have tickets, you have to go. You don't want to miss. We didn't lose last year, so you just had to go. And so being able to hopefully transfer that basketball atmosphere, at least what you can. It's different because you're enclosed and it's tighter. Ball's open and it's bigger, it's more people. But if we can even try to mimic that, it would be fantastic. And so the Jones was rocking, and I'm excited, absolutely, for the future. So, all right, we will end it there. I appreciate you stuck with me, and we worked through some technical difficulties, but we did the best we could, and we'll monitor our picks and see how we do this weekend.
Well, there we go. Well, like I said, appreciate it being here, Jeff. It's a real honor to even do this with you. So, if you ever have me back sometime, I'd love to do it. But it's been fun.
All right, we'll do it, man. I appreciate you.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Sir, we will sign off. All right, we'll see you later, fools.